Blessed be everyone. Welcome to another Mystery Witch School YouTube Live. Welcome, Dwight. Welcome, Not Queen. It's good to see you. Blessed be. Today we're talking about setting up a powerful practice, a powerful witchcraft practice. And these aren't really secrets, but the they are in some ways, because people think of power as being these grandiose things when really the powerful practices are actually in the subtle little things that we do, not in the big grandiose things that we do. So today what I want to do is show you or talk to you about how you can cultivate your practice in a simple way, easy way that fits in with your lifestyle. So before we do, though, I do have to wait for people to join on the live. If you're watching the replay, welcome to the replay. For those of you who are new to the school, my name is Sandra. I've been practicing witchcraft for over 35 years. I help other witches and pagans who are struggling to start a practice or deepen a practice that they already have, to confidently practice magic on a daily basis, or practice connecting spiritually to their practice on a daily basis with ease. And so I do that through this YouTube channel, and also through my online courses and one-on-one coaching. So I'm just watching in the comments field. Hi, Shane. Hi, Sandy. Welcome, welcome, welcome. If you are in the replay, please comment still. Let me know what your experiences are, what things work for you when it comes to making your craft more powerful for you. And any questions that you might have, you can also pop in the comments field as well if you're watching the replay. Of course, if you're in the live chat, you can do the same in the live chat. If you're wanting to support the channel and support the information that you get through YouTube, I have Super Chat and Super Thanks there. And there's also PayPal Me for those of you that aren't connected to Google or YouTube, financially speaking. Okay, and you can find that link in the description field below the video. Okay, I'm going to dive in. As people join in, they will join in. I don't like waiting around when it comes to lives, because I know how it feels to be waiting around. So as I said at the beginning, today I'm going to show you how you can cultivate your witchcraft practice in a way that's simple, in a way that is easy for you and fits your lifestyle. And no, you don't need to buy tools or spend hours in rituals. Not that these things aren't good, they are very helpful, and they can certainly help you feel more into your practice and feel more into your magical self, but they aren't 100% necessary. And a lot of practitioners, as they practice, tend to drop some of these things and don't use them so often. They find that while at the beginning it's great to use tools, and tools can really help you connect to your magical self, that once you get used to doing this kind of work, you don't need the tools so much anymore, and may not even use the tools so much anymore. So we're going to focus on what actually matters. So this is your intent, what your focus is, being consistent in your practice, and connecting to your inner witch, your inner magic. So you're going to have the practical tools and tips and groundwork to have a powerful witchcraft practice that is actually your practice. It doesn't have to be exactly like somebody else's practice. Now, if you want to know where to start your witchcraft practice, because that's a difficult place to begin, where do I start? What do I do first? I do have a free masterclass called How to Start Your Witchcraft Practice. There's a link in the description field below the video, and there's also links on my website, mysterywitchschool.com. I've also got a freebies tab on my website, so that it's got all of my freebies there. So if you want more information to help you with your practice, you'll find it there as well. I'm just going to find the link to the masterclass. Okay, masterclass. And I'm just putting that in the chat now. Okay, let's get on with it. So what does it actually mean to have a strong foundation? Because this is what is actually important, having a foundation, having the earth to stand on, the weight of the earth to stand on, to feel grounded in your practice. And that is having a framework that's actually supporting your growth. So, this is your growth as a witch and your growth in feeling more connected in your practice and in your life in general. The whole point of witchcraft practice is to enhance your life in general. It's not just about practicing witchcraft for the sake of practicing witchcraft, it's to bring more joy and happiness in your life. That's why we do it. And that's why we're practicing. And having that strong foundation is going to help you, especially when you go through difficult times and maybe you don't feel like doing a lot of ritual work or practice, but you still have this foundation to help you during those difficult times. Okay. Hi, Candidly. Welcome. Staying connected helps with keeping my practice alive. Yes, awesome. It certainly does. So you could think of it as building uh, the roots of a tree. You know, the roots of the tree are stable, then the tree is nourished. It's able to grow strong and tall and not fall over. So the strong foundation in witchcraft is also about uh, what aligns you with your joy, really. What aligns you with feeling connected. It's not about memorizing spells. It's not about having to have all of the tools and all of the herbs and all of the crystals at all. It's just developing habits that nourish you, nourish your soul and your energy, and allow you to connect to yourself and to the divine forces in nature. So there's core pillars of your witchcraft practice, and I've divided them into sort of three core pillars of the practice. And the first one is personal connection. So this is it's a personal practice, and if you've read a lot of books on witchcraft, which I'm sure you have by now, you'll notice that everybody kind of has a different take on the practice. It's very different, particularly in the witchcraft scene, more so than the Wiccan scene. So in Wicca, there's traditions, and when it comes to following a particular tradition, the rituals and the ways that you practice and the way that you develop tend to be pretty much a curriculum, you could say, and pretty much written there. And a lot of the time, you would follow that set uh, foundation that's already there in the tradition. If you're a solitary Wiccan or you're more eclectic, then you would start to develop a more of a personal practice. It's great to start with a practice that's already there. So, following somebody else's practice first is a great way to start because you've got to start somewhere and you've got to learn what you put in a practice. And so, it's great to learn from someone else what to do as a practice. And I certainly teach a way of practicing in my courses. And it's something that builds your foundation, but it's something you can deviate from and change as you start to develop more confidence in yourself as a witch and you start to discover more of what works for you. So it's not really a one size fits all. There's It's about connecting to what resonates with you, and sometimes you may find that you have a practice for a while and then you need to change it up and do something else or add something else or work a completely different way. You might like to work with a particular deity or work with particular energies or cycles or elements. You may find that you're working with a particular deity for some time and then you start to change to working with another deity. That happens a lot. It's happened for me. It happened in my first coven. We changed deities, I think, 3 times in the time that I was with that coven. So the god and goddess changed over that time. You might want to work with specific things like tarot, energy work, or even more practical, finding that when you're working in your garden is connecting you more to your practice. These really personal things in your practice. So have a think about what draws you to witchcraft in the first place. And you can let me know in the comments or in the chat what draws you to witchcraft, what lights you up. And this is where you could start. Okay. What lights you up? What drew you to the craft in the first place? If you could do one thing on a daily basis, what would you like to do that you feel connects you to your path? It's a personal thing. Now, I can show you as I do in the Mystery Witch School 101 Academy and also in my daily practice course, The Ultimate Guide to Starting a Witchcraft Practice That Works. I give you guidance as to how to start your practice. So, you start with creating a sacred space, and then you will call in the goddess and god, and then you would do some meditation and then set an intention, and then give an offering for the day. Now, that is a format that you can use to set up a practice in. And having a form to practice in is very helpful because it gives you a structure and it's great to have that structure. But it's a really simple structure. It's about creating sacred space, which you can do pretty much anywhere, even if using your imagination to create that space, whether you're in nature or you're at home. You can call in the energies of the goddess and god or the elements, do some meditation, and then focus on what it is that you're wanting to achieve in your life that day. It could be your big plan or it could be something small. And then giving thanks and gratitude for the things that you do have. That's a really simple practice, but it's a very powerful practice because you're turning up for yourself every day doing it, and you can change that practice. You can have different deities that you work with. You can have different types of meditation that you can put in there. You can have different spell work that you put in there for your intention. So you may want to do spells during that. And of course, the gratitude every day is a very powerful practice. So it's a simple outline and a simple structure for your daily practice that you can then personalize and put in your own thing. So if witchcraft helps you with problem solving, then this is a good time in the morning or in the evening, turning up for yourself, doing your daily practice, and maybe using tarot to help you with solving the problems and pulling a tarot card during that daily practice structure. Using the meditation and using the tarot, asking a deity to help you with discovering what the solution is to your problem. You can do that on a daily basis using just a very, very simple structure. And the more that you do this, the more powerful your practice does become because you're connecting every day to yourself, you're connecting every day to nature, and you're connecting to your purpose and your sense of meaning in life. So I'm just going to read some comments there to see if anybody answered the question. Any advice for a witch with ADHD? I try to visualize, but it's hard for me to focus on one thing. My mind wanders very easily. I would try mantra because it isn't easy. There's a couple of different ways you can approach meditation. One is through mantra. So if you have a mantra, and it could be the name of a deity that you just say over and over and over again, that can help if you're struggling to visualize or focus because the mantra gives you something to actually do physically. Another way around this is to just observe your desire to go away from the focus or the discomfort of trying to sit and meditate and just observe it and just look at it. Don't try to change it. Don't try to sit and meditate. Just watch the the discomfort in your body when you try to sit and meditate. When the mind wanders, just watch it as it wanders. And when you catch it wandering, just observe that. Mindfulness meditation is about observing. So, even observing your own mind and your own fidgeting, your own desire to get up and go, just observe it. That's what meditation is about. It's about observing and being aware. And the more you do this, the more self aware you become. And you're able to take a step back from the need to fidget or the need to get up and walk away or the need to be feeling uncomfortable. You're just watching what you're experiencing and you're not trying to change anything in the process. You're not trying to calm down, you're not trying to still the mind, you're not trying to think nothing, which you can't do anyway. You're just observing what you're experiencing and become curious about it. Become curious about, my mind just wandered away. Okay, what did that feel like? Where did it go? And watch your thoughts as if you're watching a movie and just be curious about it. So that's a really good way to work with meditation. I use that. I still use that because I have a tendency to be a little bit more up in energy. And so when I'm feeling a little bit more energetic or a little bit, hyper, I will actually do that to actually calm my nervous system down when I go to meditate and just be the observer and observe my body, observe the discomfort of having to sit. And as I observe it, it calms down. It works. So get curious about it. I stay connected, but also blessing my beverage, coffee, and food for the highest good and highest best when I ingest. Blessed be, and so it is. Awesome. So adding just those little daily practices when you're drinking your coffee or your tea in the morning and blessing that with whatever blessings you want to give it is another way of connecting. And it's a powerful practice because you're putting energy into your drink and you're going to drink that. So that's putting magic into you every day. Or every time you drink, if you do it every time you drink something. So this is a way of incorporating witchcraft on a daily basis that gives you a lot more power because you're really focused on what it is that you're doing. You're being very mindful about what you're doing with your life. You're not being unconscious and just moving around in an unconscious way. You're being conscious of everything that you do and becoming more aware of everything that you do. And that makes you more of a powerful person. You're connecting more to your higher self when you're being more observant of yourself and more deliberate in your actions. So that personal connection is really important for you. And what drew you to the craft in the first place is going to give you a hint as to what is the personal connection for you. What's really going to float your boat when it comes to your practice. Now, the second aspect is daily rituals and habits. And we've kind of talked a little bit about this when I talked about the structure of a daily practice. The structure is very helpful. It's a form that allows you then to know what you're doing, when you're doing it, and to add things or subtract things as you feel you need to do so. I think a lot of the time people don't know what to do or where to start because our brain tends to want a bit of a structure. And even if you don't stick to the structure, if you've got the structure there, it can help you know where to start. So what's the first thing you would do if you have that daily practice structure? You're going to clear your space. Physically clear your space. You may want to physically clean it or just energetically clean your space. And you know, that's the first thing I'm going to do. That's the little ritual I'm going to do first. I'm either going to use my besom and clean the space, or I'm going to use my imagination and clean the space on an astral level and just imagine that there's this light emanating from my heart and it's going right around my body and then it projects out into the space. And that's a ritual that you can do every day to clean your space. And you know that's how you're going to start and that's what you're going to do. And it makes it easier for you to turn up for yourself and easier for you to then go from there. So you don't have to do everything at once. Incorporate these small things on a daily basis. You could then light a candle and just set an intention for the day. You may have something important on that day or something you want to complete that day or something that you're a bit worried about that day. So you might want to do like a quick little spell after you've cleansed your space and use that as your practice. When I do spell work, I tend to do it in the morning because that's when I do my daily practice. So I tend to do it all at once, depending on how much time I have. And a lot of people do magic probably more in the evenings, I think, but I tend to do my magic in the day during my daily practice because it just works in with my lifestyle to do it that way. You can also do your journaling during your daily practice as well. Set up your sacred space, light a candle and journal. Write down your thoughts. What is it you're thinking and feeling today? And what would you like to think or feel instead? What would you like to experience instead? And let your imagination go. One of the most powerful aspects of magic is the imagination. So, if you're using daily rituals and daily habits to help enhance your life, you can use your imagination to help you with that too. So, if you're wanting to have a better a better home, for example, you're wanting to move to a certain location, just ask yourself, what would it feel like if I was actually living in that location right now? And just tune into how it feels to imagine that you're living in that location. And you could do that every day as part of your magic. It's just asking yourself that question. And when you ask yourself that question, you put yourself in that scenario and you start to subconsciously experience it as if it's real. So you start to get into the feeling, which is what carries the magic. So it could be as simple as that. As long as you're being consistent in your practice, it's going to help you become more connected. And this is really the important of the power of a practice is feeling connected because so many of us feel disconnected. We live very disconnected lives. Our culture is very disconnected. It's very based on the material world and materialism, meaning the material world. It's not based on anything that is deeper or more connected or more spiritual. It's about separating everything into material bits and focusing on these bits and separating bits into more and creating it's a world of separation rather than a world of cohesion. And we're feeling disconnected a lot of the time because the material things aren't what bring us the joy. They're not what bring us a connection to ourselves. They are simply things. And what we're really looking for is that sense of connection to who and what we really are, our spiritual selves, our higher self, our God and Goddess self. So the rituals that you do, the little rituals that you do, doing the coffee and the tea, blessing them of the morning is a ritual. That is a ritual. You could do this with your food too. Giving thanks for your food when you eat it, before you eat it, that whole idea of doing grace before meals, that is across the board in all spiritual disciplines and all spiritual uh, religions and spiritual practices because it's acknowledging that a lot of beings have actually gone into creating the food that you eat. So it can be the animals, the plants, the people who've brought this food to you, the intermediaries. There's so many people often involved now in the food that we eat. When you think of the whole going from A all the way to B, C, D till it gets to you, there's a lot of beings involved in bringing you this food, and giving thanks to those beings who have brought you this food is a wonderful way of practicing the gratitude and also understanding that we all rely on other beings for our sustenance. And I include plants in there as beings because they do have a living, vibrant energy and they do have a consciousness. So, all beings that are providing us with our sustenance and our health are definitely to be thanked and give gratitude to when we're eating or when we're drinking. That's a daily ritual that can really empower your practice. Meditation is another practice that is probably the ultimate thing. I include it in a lot in the Mystery Witch School 101 Academy because it is very important. Meditation just allows you to be able to be more self-aware and to know yourself, to know your mind and how your mind works, to know what distracts you, how you think, and just being aware in general. It connects you to your higher self and it connects you to your intuition. It's one of the most powerful practices you could ever do. It's probably more powerful than any spell that you could ever do because it's leading you to know thyself. And witchcraft is about changing the self. It's about changing ourselves and becoming the people that we truly are, the magical people that we truly are. And meditation helps you just become more aware and more knowledgeable of yourself and the real world. It takes you away from the mundane world of do, 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 go, 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 and takes you into the world of being who you truly are, being yourself. So it's the most important practice and a very powerful practice. Thank you so much for the super chat, Not Queen. Very, very important. Okay, so if I get distracted when doing a spell or visualization, it won't affect the spell if I just observe and bring myself back. Absolutely. Look, we all wander off in our minds, and even people who've been meditating for decades and decades and decades, who meditate for an hour a day, will still struggle sometimes with their mind. So if you get distracted, just acknowledge you've been distracted. Oops, so I've gone off, and come back and start and get back into the visualization, get back into the spell, get back into what it is that you're doing. When you're doing spell work, you don't have to visualize for very long. It only needs to really be 60 seconds to 2 minutes of imagining the outcome, and then you can stop the spell. So it's not like you've got to sit in a visualization for a spell for half an hour or an hour. It's a short visualization, because you're just using the imagination to get the feeling going. And once the feeling's going, you can actually just enjoy the feeling and sit with the feeling itself and enjoy that. And that's the spell. Other habits that you can use when it comes to making your witchcraft more powerful is to observe your thinking and your feelings, and what it is that gets you angry, what gets you frustrated, what scares you, what gets you excited, what helps you feel more joy, and just getting to understand the things you're telling yourself when you experience either the uncomfortable emotions or the ones that we really like to experience. What's your self-talk? What do you say to yourself? Is the world a place for you that is, more of a friendly place, or is it a place that's hostile to you? And where do those thoughts come from? Probably your past and your upbringing. And how can you change that so that you're experiencing the world in a better place? Are you somebody who tends to jump into anger really easily because you see everything as a threat to you? And so you feel you've got to constantly defend yourself all of the time. That probably came from your childhood too, and it's something you've learned to do. But how is that not helping you in your life? And when does it help you in your life? And just becoming more aware of these things and where they come from, and becoming more flexible as a person so that you have more choice in how you react to things. Our reaction to events is very, very important, because a lot of the time we give our power away to other people because we're reacting to them. And when there's conflict with someone, you need to be careful that you're not giving away your power in that conflict by holding on to resentment or holding on to grudges and things like that, because that's giving your power away to that person. So, as a magical practitioner, you don't want to be giving your power away to anybody. So, it's learning how to experience other people's difficult aspects without taking it personally, even if the person is trying to make it personal, because they're only doing that because they're trying to manipulate you and control you into doing or thinking how they want you to do or think. And learning, what am I telling myself? If somebody is telling me that I'm a bad person, what am I telling myself in regards to that? Because the shadow work here is what's really, really important, because you'll know that there are aspects to yourself that are unsavory. We all have them. We all have those shadow aspects. It's acknowledging those aspects and also knowing what they are, but also knowing that you have the ability to have all of these positive aspects as well. And so when people try to manipulate you through shaming you or guilting you in some way or insulting you in some way, you can step back and it's like water off a duck's back because you realize that what they're saying is actually more about them than it is about you. And you don't have to be offended all of the time because a lot of people do get quite offended. This is a powerful place to be, not getting offended is a powerful place to be, a very powerful place to be, and not letting what other people say is a power affect you is a powerful place to be. And it's not about being, narcissistic or so arrogant that you don't listen to maybe some constructive criticism, which happens, but it's understanding that a lot of the witch wars and things that go on in Facebook groups and that is all about the ego and all about people taking offense and all about people disempowering themselves, giving their power away to everybody because they felt insulted because somebody said something that they disagreed with. So therefore, they've taken it personally and turned it into this war. We have to let go of taking things personally. When somebody might be attacking, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's personal, and if they are trying to personally attack, which a lot of people do, you don't have to take it. You can throw it back their way by not taking it personally, understanding that it's their way of doing things, their problem, not yours. So don't give your power away. That's a habit to create. And this happens through shadow work and it happens through meditation and observing yourself and being aware of yourself. The third one is then creating the sacred space and the tools. Now, I spoke about sacred space at the beginning as the beginning of a ritual practice. When it comes to your tools, you really don't need any tools at all. However, tools do help you feel connected because they're tangible things. They're things you can hold and use. And that does help you feel more connected because you're connecting to the tool physically. So the physical connections like an athame or a wand, a pentacle, a cup, crystals, herbs, all of these things help us feel more connected. So even though you don't need them, they are helpful, especially in the beginning. I think a lot of the time we're connecting more externally to things because we haven't learned how to connect more energetically to things and more connecting to ourselves. And so we tend to rely more on the tools than what we do as we progress further in the craft. Having an altar is a wonderful place to start if you do want to start with some kind of physical thing because it gives you a place to start practicing. It gives you a focus. You go to your altar and immediately you're in the psychological zone of this is a sacred time, this is a sacred place. So an altar can be anything that you can put stuff on. You can have an empty altar, or you could just have an altar with a candle on it. Some people have used drawers as altars because they've had to hide them. So they've just opened the drawer and used the drawer as an altar. Some people will just use a duchess or something small, something in a corner. Some people have like a despacho. So this is where your altar is something that is maybe a piece of cloth that you open up and put wherever it is that you are, and that cloth then is the altar. And you may have some things that you keep in the cloth that when you open up the cloth, you put the items out, and that is your altar. A very good way of taking your altar around with you and being mobile with your altar is to do it that way. Other people will have more elaborate altars. Some people have more than one altar. I have sort of altars around the place. And you can use those altars, I guess, at your convenience. Sometimes it's more convenient for me to use the one in here than it is for me to use the one in the shed, especially in summer because it's very, very hot out there in summer and you just can't sit out there in summer. So an altar is a good place to start, and it doesn't have to be anything elaborate. It could even just be a tile that you put on the ground. It could be a piece of wood that you put on the ground. And when you're finished with it, you could even put it away. It just gives you that sense of this is my space. This is a sacred time. Candles are wonderful tools to use in the craft because they help provide some light. So, if you're wanting to work in darkness and you have a candle there, it allows you to feel more intimate. That light of a candle is an intimate light. And when you're focusing on the candle, you're starting to slow the nervous system down and put yourself into alpha waves. So, just using a candle, a white candle, a beeswax candle, is a tool that you can use every day to help you feel more sacred and more connected. It's a very, very simple thing. So, when you're building your own routine, think of the things that help you feel more connected. So, an athame may help you feel more connected. So, you may want to buy an athame or make one yourself if you're that way inclined, or a wand to help you feel more connected. But you don't need these things. Of course, I talk about them and introduce them and show people how to use them in the Mystery Witch School 101 Academy because they are the typical tools that we use, and we do use them in ritual. But you don't need them right from the very beginning. When I first started witchcraft, I just used a stick as a wand. I just used a kitchen knife as my athame, and then I progressed to a letter opener that was a replica of Excalibur. It was only that big, and that was my athame. A ceramic cup, and I still use that same ceramic cup to this day, even though I've got more elaborate looking ones, but I just don't use them. They're more for show, I guess. And the pentacle. Now, the pentacle is you can get some really lovely pentacles now on Etsy and places like that. But my pentacle at first was actually on cardboard. I just drew it on cardboard because that's all I had. But it wasn't so much about what these tools were made from, even though that also has magical significance. It was the fact of how I connect to these tools, my subconscious mind connecting to these tools and giving these tools power. So they were really cheap and easy. I even went to a secondhand store and got the cup from the secondhand store. I cleansed it and consecrated it. But these things don't have to be expensive. So if you do want to work with tools, you can start doing it that way until you work up to being able to get the types of tools that you would really like to get from an aesthetic point of view. But it can be very, very simple. Your subconscious mind is your greatest power. So whatever you're connecting with subconsciously is going to affect you, and you're going to affect it as well. So the most important thing is to be mindful every day. Try to meditate every day, even if it is only for 5 minutes a day. Set up your sacred space. Set an intention for the day. What would you like to complete for that day? Be mindful of how you react to things on a daily basis. How do you react to things that go wrong? How do you react to people? Observe yourself, become aware of yourself. That is a very powerful practice. Self awareness, self observation. Know thyself. When you know thyself, you are much more powerful. I think it's YouTube. Okay. Let me know if we're happening again. Let me know what we're going. YouTube just did a really weird flip. So we're all experiencing, must be YouTube. Okay. Okay, I'm back again. I don't know if you guys are back again. Let me know in the comments. Are you still experiencing weird YouTube things? Start again. Okay, you're back. Yes, I'm back. Streaming rate speed. Ah, yeah, there's weird stuff going on with the internet at the moment. Okay, so we're just going to pick up where we left off. Okay, so it's important for you to be mindful. So practice the meditation every day. Become more aware of what you're thinking, what you're doing, and how you're doing it. That's a really important practice. Connect with the elements, connect with the lunar energies. Even if it's just gazing up at the moon on a full moon night and connecting with the energy. Have a think about the elements. The elements are like the building blocks. The elements are like the building blocks, and it's connecting to those. Earth is the really dense element, and we experience that all the time. But we can also experience the element of air through our imagination, experience the element of water through our creativity, experiencing the element of fire simply through our impulses and desires. And this is how these elements work in our lives. All four of them are creating at once. The desire for something, the imagination creating it, what it looks like, all of those things come together and create what we experience in the earth realm. So start learning about the elements as well. Yes, it is working now. No, I think it was something to do with the streaming. It just basically went out and said something's wrong, and then when I went back into it, it was doing other things. So I don't know if it was YouTube or where it was coming from. Something to do with the streaming, anyway. Yeah, it's working now. Cool. So to basically put it all together, create your sacred space on a daily basis. And that, as I said at the beginning, and just be using that, visualizing that energy coming around you and then spreading out into your room, lighting a candle, doing some meditation, just being aware of your thoughts, where they're going, what they're doing, and observing yourself, observing your discomfort, and learning more about who and what you are. Setting an intention for the day, whether that is something that is general or something that's more specific. It could be something that's for a big thing that you're wanting, that you're doing magic work on, or it could just be something that's more specific for that day. Doing some journaling, finding out what you think and what you feel and how you react to things, getting to know thyself, really, really important. Connecting to the goddess and God, so asking them to be present with you every day. Doing those little rituals like gratitude for your meal, blessing your coffee, blessing your tea in the morning, and infusing energy into that. And that energy could be for health benefits, for abundance, for more love, to be more self-aware. Whatever your intention is, you can put that into your liquid and drink that. Your best friends in the craft are your journal. Here's your journal. It's where you're learning more about yourself. It's actually more powerful than your book of shadows. Because your book of shadows is where all your rituals go into and all of the correspondences and everything go in there. And maybe your experiences with your spells, but your journal is where you're doing that deep dive into yourself and learning more about yourself. And that's where the real power is. The power isn't in the spells. Anyone can do a spell. If you look at all of the spells that are out there in the books, they're just words and various different things that they're putting together. And some spells work for some people, and some spells, that same spell won't work for another person. Why? Because it's the person that's doing the spell as to whether it works or not. It's not actually in the spell itself. And people are always looking for the most powerful spell and the best spell. And I want this spell, or I need a spell, a really powerful one, because the other ones haven't worked. And it doesn't matter whether you get the really powerful spell. It is actually the practitioner that makes the difference to the spell. Some spells you will resonate with more than others. You may be more inclined towards candle magic. You may be more inclined towards sigil magic. And that's because you're inclined that way, and it will help you feel more confident and help you become more engaged in what you're doing. But it's you that's still doing it, and knowing thyself is the most powerful witchcraft of all. Wishing and needing things, use I am, I have, yes. So when you're wanting something, ask yourself, what does it feel like? What would it feel like to have that? And then as you're imagining yourself having it, you are having it. You are that. And when you say it in your spell, I am, I have, in the present tense, to help you experience it. I use and call it the Book of Moons, spellcraft during the moon phases. Awesome. I'm going in the garden with bare feet. See you in the earth. Yes, connect. Grounding, do grounding every day. Grounding isn't just a, woo-woo spiritual thing. Grounding is actually great for your health as well. So when you're connecting your feet to the earth, you are working electrically to help ground your energy. And there's a lot of health benefits to that. When we were back in the days when we were hunter-gatherers and we were living very close to the earth, we were walking on the earth every day. We were sitting on it. We were sleeping on it. We were constantly grounded. And if anybody has pets or anything outside, you'll see they sleep in the garden. They're grounding themselves all of the time. We don't do that anymore, of course, because we live in apartment buildings. We live on concrete. We sit in chairs. We sleep in soft beds, and we're not getting grounded anymore. So we do have to take the time out to put our feet on the ground, put our feet on the dirt, on wet sand, and get that connection to the earth that way. So just out of curiosity, just have a think about what's the first step that you can take today to cultivate your practice. What's one thing that you can do when you come away from this live that will cultivate your practice? Have a think about that. And you can let me know in the comments if you want to, or in the chat. Okay. And if you do want to learn Wicca and Witchcraft with me, I do invite you to the Mystery Witch School 101 Academy, because you will learn how to do all of this. You will learn to become more aware of who you are and what you are. The whole point of the course is to get you connected to who you truly are and your magical self, and to get you standing in your power in the way that you need to stand in it to bring more joy into your life. It will help connect you more to your magic. Your magic will become more successful. And if you're struggling with your magic, you're able to realize where you're going wrong, because you're more self-aware. So that course takes you right from the very beginning of the first things to do when you first learn the craft, or how I learned it when I was in the coven, all the way to the end of first degree, and a little bit of second degree work in there too for anybody who's particularly interested in Wicca and the way that Wicca works. It's an eclectic course, but it's got that structure there to help you learn, because we learn well when we've got some structure there. So that's the Mystery Witch School 101 Academy. In that you learn magic, you learn to work with the lunar energies, the solar energies, you learn to work with the deities, and all of the energy work that goes into magic. Okay, know thyself. Reflect on this quote. Awesome. Connecting with like minds on this live stream is a start. Awesome. That's a great way to begin. Yes. To start cultivating practice, I'd say start meditating, grounding 10 minutes a day. Yes, absolutely. So if you're wanting to know more about the Mystery Witch School 101 Academy, there's a link in the description field below the video, and it's also on my website, mysterywitchschool.com, as well as everything else that you want to find out is on that website, mysterywitchschool.com as well. Okay, thank you all for coming along to this live. I'm sorry about the interruption in the live streaming. It was a little bit confusing. It was like YouTube had some kind of, or I don't know what it did, but anyway, we all experienced it together, so that was lovely. And have a wonderful week. Oh, before I go, happy Beltane for those of you in the Northern Hemisphere coming up in a day or two. And happy Samhain for those of you in the Southern Hemisphere like myself. It's the beginning of winter here. Doesn't feel like it, but I'm waiting for it to happen on Samhain, because often on Samhain, the actual day, it turns cool. So still waiting for that to happen here. So have a wonderful Sabbath, and I'll see you next week.